An unfortunate side effect of film school is that it implements too much of a routine, making students naive to the realities of the industry. We operate on schedules and due dates, and as aspiring filmmakers, we're inevitably robbed of the urge to get out there and just do it.
For years, we raced towards what turns out to be a red light, and a huge reality check is in store.
There's no such thing as routine in the world of filmmaking. Our guest today is Sean Garrity, a remarkably accomplished do-it-yourself Canadian filmmaker. He writes, directs, produces, and edits almost all of his own material, frequently collaborating with actor Jonas Chernick. His first film, Inertia, won Best First Feature at the 2001 Toronto International Film Festival. In 2006, he was awarded the Special Jury Prize by the Don Hegg Jury at Toronto's Hot Docs Film Festival for his film Zoe and Adam. This award recognizes a filmmaker whose work is not only outstanding, but also bridges the gap between the genres of documentary and fiction. All 5 of Sean's films, most recently Blood Pressure and My Awkward Sexual Adventure, have enjoyed successful theatrical distribution and DVD release here in Canada. Our guest today is Sean Garrity, a remarkably accomplished do-it-yourself Canadian filmmaker. Sean, thank you very much for sitting down with us today.
Thanks for having me.
So you got your start at York University in Toronto. Would you say that your education there gave you all of the tools that you needed as a filmmaker, or did you go into that program already knowing the ins and outs of film production?
No, I got into the program at York because I wanted to study music or theater or visual art, and I couldn't decide what I wanted to do, and so I went to India. And when I was in India, my parents wrote me like these nervous letters saying, "So you're planning on starting university when you get back?" And I was like, "Yeah, I don't know what I want to do though." And I sort of listed all of these, careers that guarantee a life of poverty. And they said, "How about here? We'll send you an application for filmmaking at York, because filmmaking kind of involves acting and involves visual art and involves music, and wouldn't that be nice?" And I get the impression they thought it was because that would be a career where I would actually make money, as opposed to the others, where I would be, permanently sucking at the teat of their generosity. So I filled it out, and the next thing I knew, I was accepted into York while I was still in India. And so I just kind of fell into it. I guess my mom chose it for me. But as a result, I went in not knowing anything about filmmaking, and kind of learned at York for a few years, and then I think, typical of a lot of university students, after 3 years of a 4-year degree, I was like, I know everything. Why am I sticking around this place? These guys can't teach me anything. So I quit. And I applied for an exchange program to go to South America. And I went to a film school in Buenos Aires called the Instituto Cinematográfico de Avellaneda. And I spent a year and a half there learning how to make film basically with clothes hangers and Scotch tape. Because they didn't have anything, and they got a camera once, and then the sort of vice principal of the school snuck in at night and stole it, and so we learned how to make film with nothing, which ultimately was excellent preparation for shooting films in Canada. Right, so you had none of the toys at your disposal to begin with. Yeah, you had to focus on what it was about film that makes people want to watch. Yeah. So that at that school, whose name I cannot pronounce at all right now, did you feel blessed for having gone there as opposed to staying at York? Yeah, I mean, ultimately I came back to York and finished, but I mean, but yeah, it was an amazing experience, and really has sort of profoundly affected the way that I make films. I mean, at York, you'd write a script and you'd show it to the profs, and they would approve or disapprove, and then you would go to the cage and get your gear, and if the gear was broken, you'd say, "Oh well, I guess we don't shoot," and you'd take it back to the cage and get more gear. Whereas in South America, I mean, no one checked what you were doing, and you had to get everything you could by yourself. And if you were out on set and something broke, these guys would literally open it up and figure a way to make it work, and you'd continue shooting. And, when you look at those two models and say which is closer to the Canadian independent film scene, it's pretty clear. Yep. So you write and produce and direct and edit most of your features, and bring coffee, and that. That's when I was a driver on Blood Pressure.
Nicole, your courage and your renewed commitment to our relationship is inspiring. Enclosed with this letter, you will find a small yellow envelope. Do not open it. This is very important. You are to deliver the envelope tonight in person to the man from the picture at 8:05 p.m. in the lobby of the Sutton Hotel. You must stand by as he opens and reads it. Once he is finished, you will know what to do.
Having your hands in every piece of the process, how does that affect the way you go about filmmaking? Do you find that it makes it more complicated?
No, I find that when I go to doing it the other way, which I have done a couple times, My Awkward Sexual Adventure and Lucid were both kind of very healthily budgeted movies. And so on those films, I was restricted to just directing. And I found it very difficult because my modus operandi has always been make the film, like in film school. You know, you get the idea and you get the stuff and you shoot it and you get your buddies to be in it and then you cut it yourself and you put it together and you sound edit it and you pull out a guitar and make the music and then the movie's done. And so that's the way I'm used to making movies. And so on the odd occasion where all I'm asked to do is direct, I find that to be a challenge, only because all of the other steps that I normally do and that I have internalized, I now have to explain, right? So whereas normally I would shoot something and I'm kind of editing it in my head as I'm shooting it, and so I know how it's going to go together, and in the edit suite I just, you know, put it together. With the kind of budgeted model, I direct the same way, but then we get into the edit suite and I suddenly have to explain to an editor how I want it to be cut. And that's a challenge because it's a vocabulary that I'm still sort of developing.